Hey guys, welcome back. So today we'll be converting measurements. Let's look at this example here. So let's convert feet into inches. So 7 feet equals how many inches? The first method, if you're converting a large unit to a small unit, you are going to multiply. And then if you're going from a small unit to a large unit, then you are going to divide. So in this example here, I am converting feet into inches. So that means I am going from a large unit to a small unit. Then that means I need to multiply. My conversion factor for this example here is 1 foot equals 12 inches. And since I am going from a large unit to a smaller unit, then I need to multiply. So I'm going to multiply 7 times 12, and 7 times 12 is 84. So 7 feet equals 84 inches. Now for my second method here, we are going to set up a proportion. So I'm going to do 7 feet over inches that we do not know. This is going to equal 1 foot over 12 inches because this is my conversion factor here. Now I'm going to cross multiply. So on my left side here, I'm just going to get X. Just imagine this is X. And then on my right side here, I'm going to multiply 7 times 12. This is going to equal 84. So your final answer here is 84. Now the third method is very similar to the second method. So technically this is going to be method 2.5. I'm still going to set up my numerator and denominator just like I did here. So this is going to be the same as it is right here. Now we're going to multiply. So I am now going to switch my feet and my inches here. So my numerator now on my right side, this is going to be 12 inches. And then my denominator on my right side, this is going to be 1 foot. Anytime you use method number 3, always remember if you have numbers in your numerator, then you're going to multiply your numerators. If you have numbers in your denominator, then that's going to let us know that you do need to divide. These are going to cancel out. I'm just going to multiply the top. 7 times 12. This is also going to equal 84. So your final answer here is going to be 84 inches as well, because this is what we are looking for here. Notice you received the same answer of 84 inches for all 3 methods. Let's look at our next example. Now we're going to convert miles into feet. So we have 4 miles equal how many feet? My conversion factor is going to be 1 mile equals 5,280 feet. And by looking at method number 1, since I am converting a larger unit to a smaller unit, then I know I need to multiply. I'm going to multiply 4 times my 5,000 here because 5,280 feet is going to give me 1 mile. So I'm going to multiply 4 times my 5,000. So we have 4 times 5,280. And this is going to equal 21,120 feet. So 4 miles equal 21,120 feet. Now let's look at method number 2. Let's set up a proportion. So I have 4 miles here. And when you are setting up your proportion, always start with what you have. So 4 miles equals, we don't know how many feet because that's what we're trying to find. This is going to equal 1 mile because this is my conversion factor over 5,280 feet. Now I'm going to cross multiply. So we have 4 times 5,000 and then 1 times my x, which is what we're looking for. So 1 times x, this is just going to equal x. And then 4 times 5,280, this is going to equal 21,120 feet as your answer. Now for method number 3, which is very similar to method number 2. So 4 miles, I'm doing the same thing here. Over, we don't know how many feet because this is what we're looking for. I'm going to multiply that by my other fraction. However, I'm going to do 5,280 up here. And then down here, I'm going to do 1 mile here. Now, remember, if you're going to use method 2 and 3, make sure, notice that these stay the same. All I'm doing is flipping my second fraction. But up here, I'm going to cross multiply. And then down here, I'm going to multiply across. So notice my miles are canceling out, my feet is canceling out. So all I'm going to do now is just multiply my 4 times my 5,000 in my numerator, and this is going to give me 120 feet as my answer because this is what we're looking for. And these are your answers here. Let's look at this example. 108 inches equals how many feet? So my conversion factor for this example here equals 12 inches. And based on this example here, I am going from inches to feet. So I am going from a smaller unit to a larger unit. That means I need to divide. I'm going to divide 108 divided by 12 because 12 inches is going to give me 1 foot. So we have 108, divide that by 12, and this is going to give me 9. So 108 inches equals 9 feet. Now, method number 2, if you set up a proportion, so we're going to do 108 inches in my numerator. This is going to equal, we do not know how many feet. This is going to equal 12 inches on the top. That's going to equal 1 foot at the bottom. Now, if you're using method number 2, notice that my units are matching on the top and they're matching at the bottom. So keep that in mind if you're going to do method number 2. Now I'm going to cross multiply. So 108 times 1, this is going to equal 108. And then 12 times x, this is just going to equal 12x. Now, if I'm going to solve for x, I'm going to divide both sides by 12. So we have x equals 108 divided by 12. This is also going to give you 9. So for method number 2, your answer here is 9. Now, method number 3, if you set up a fraction, is very similar to method number 2. So 108 inches over, we do not know how many feet. This is what we're looking for. And down here is 12 inches. Remember, method 2 and method 3 are very, very similar. You just have to pay attention with how you're setting up the problems. So by looking at this example here, my inches, feet, these are all going to cancel out. So now I'm going to just multiply my numerator. So 108 times 1, I'm going to get 108 in my numerator. And this is just going to be 12. Now we're going to divide 108 divided by 12 again. This is going to equal 9. So your final answer here is also 9. Let's look at this example here. We're going to convert feet into yards. So 15 feet equals how many yards? And my conversion factor for this is going to be 3 feet. This equals 1 yard. So I need this to help me solve our conversion here. So by looking at method number 1, I am going from a smaller unit to a larger unit. So that means I'm going to divide. I'm going to divide 15 and 3 because 3 feet equals 1 yard. So I'm going to divide 15 divided by 3. This is going to equal 5. So for method number 1, 15 feet equals 5 yards. Now let's look at method number 2. So we're going to set up a proportion, 15 feet on top here. This is going to equal, we do not know how many yards. This is what we're trying to find out. Equals, on my right side, I am going to do 3 feet in my numerator. And then at the bottom, I am going to do 1 yard here at the bottom because 3 feet equal 1 yard. Now I'm going to cross multiply. So my left side here, we're going to do 3x equals 15 times 1 is 15. Now I'm going to solve for x. I'm going to divide both sides by 3. So x is going to equal 5. So your answer for method number 2 is also going to be 5 yards. Now let's look at method number 3. If I set up a fraction, remember it's going to look very similar to method number 2, except I am going to flip my two numbers here. So this is going to be times 1 yard over 3 feet, and I'm going to multiply. Just going to multiply across my feet and my yards. These are going to cancel out. My numerator, you're going to get 15, and my denominator, you're just going to get 3. Now I'm going to divide 15 divided by 3. Again, you're also going to get 5 yards as your answer. Let's look at this example here. 8 yards equals how many feet? So my conversion factor for this question here is going to be 3 feet equals 1 yard. So by looking at method number 1, I am going from a larger unit to a smaller unit. So that means I need to multiply. And I am going to multiply 8 times 3 because 3 feet gives me 1 yard. So I'm going to do 8 times 3. This is going to equal 24. So my final answer here, 8 yards equals 24 feet. And that's my final answer here for method number 1. If you do method number 2, you set up a proportion. Always start with what you have. 8 yards equals, we do not know how many feet because this is what we're looking for. This is going to equal 1 yard. On my right side equals 3 feet. Remember, when you are doing your proportion for method number 2, this is what I was given, and this is my conversion factor here. Now we're going to cross multiply. So my left side, 8 times 3, this is going to equal 24. And then you have 1 times x here. That's just going to equal x. So your final answer for method number 2 is going to be 24. Now let's look at method number 3. Very similar to method number 2. So 8 yards on top. We do not know how many feet. I'm going to multiply, and then I'm going to put 3 feet on top here. And then down here, I'm going to do 1 yard. Now I'm going to multiply across. So we have 8 times 3. So I'm going to multiply 8 times 3. This is just going to equal 24. And then that's just going to be over 1. So your final answer here again is also 24. So if you do all 3 methods for this, you're going to get 24 feet as your answer. Let's look at this example here. So inches to feet. We have 144 inches equals how many feet? And my conversion factor for this example here is going to be 12 inches equals 1 foot. For method number 1, I am going from a smaller unit to a larger unit. So that means I need to divide. So we're going to divide 144 and 12 because 12 inches is what's going to give me the 1 foot. So we have 144 divided by 12. Your final answer here is going to be 12. So 144 inches equals 12 feet. Now method number 2, if you set up a proportion, so 144 on top, 12 inches on top here, and this is going to be over 1 foot here. Now we're going to cross multiply. So my left side, we have 12x. You can just put 12x. This is going to equal 144 because 144 times 1 is just 144. Now we're going to divide both sides by 12. X is going to equal 12. So in this example here for method number 2, you're also going to get 12 feet as well. Now let's look at method number 3. If we set up a fraction and we're going to multiply, so 144 on top, we do not know what this is, times, I'm going to do 1 foot on top here and then 12 inches here. Now, all my inches and my foots, they're going to cancel out here. So my numerator, you're going to get 144 because 144 times 1. And then my denominator, you're just going to get 12. So 144 divided by 12 again is also going to give you 12. And your missing factor here is feet, so you're going to get 12 feet as your answer as well. So for all 3 methods here, your answer here is going to be 12 feet. Let's look at 7.5 miles equals how many feet. So for this example here, my conversion factor for this is going to be 1 mile equals 5,280 feet. By looking at method number one, we're going from miles to feet. So that means I'm going from a larger unit to a smaller unit. So that means I need to multiply. And I'm going to multiply 7.5 times 5,000 because 5,280 is going to give me the 1 mile. So I am going to multiply both together. So if I multiply 7.5 times 5,280, I am going to get as my answer 39,600 as my answer. And this is going to be feet. So 7.5 miles equals 39,600 feet. Now let's look at method number two. If I set up a proportion, so 7.5 on top, always start with what you have. And the bottom here, we do not know. This is what we're trying to find out. This is going to equal, we have 1 mile on top here. This equals 5,280 feet. Now we're going to cross multiply. So 7 times 5,000 here, and then 1 times 1 here. This can just represent X on the left side, and then 7.5 times 5,280. So you have 7.5 times 5,280. This is going to give you 39,600. Now let's look at method number three. Very similar to method number two, except I'm going to multiply and I'm going to flip my conversion units here. So on the top, I am going to do 5,280 feet so that everything can cancel out. And then the bottom here, I'm just going to do 1 mile. All of my units here are going to cancel. I'm just going to multiply. So 7.5 times 5,280. My numerator is just going to be 39,600. And my denominator here is just going to be 1. So your answer here again is going to be 39,600 feet. Let's look at this example here. We have 12,400 pounds equals how many tons? My conversion factor for this is going to be 1 ton equals 2,000 pounds. And by looking at this example here for method number one, I am converting pounds to tons. So that means I'm converting a smaller unit to a larger unit. So that means I need to divide. And I'm going to divide 12,400 divided by 2,000 because 2,000 pounds is going to give me the 1 ton. So we have 12,400, divide that by 2,000, and your answer here is going to be 6.2. So 12,400 pounds equals 6.2 tons. Now let's look at method number two. If I set up a proportion, so pounds is up here, down here, we do not know my ton. This is what we're looking for. This is going to equal pounds on top here. And then down here at the bottom is going to be 1 ton. Now I'm going to cross multiply. So my left side here, you have 2,000. We're going to say 2,000x equals 12,400 pounds. Now I'm going to divide both sides by 2,000. So X is going to equal 6.2. So your final answer for method number two is also 6.2. Now method number three, if I set up a fraction, and then the top here is going to be 1 ton, and then down here is going to be 2,000 pounds. Now I'm just going to multiply across because my pounds and tons are going to cancel out. So my numerator, you have 12,400, and then my denominator, you have 2,000. So when I divide these two, this is going to give me 6.2 as well. So my missing factor here is ton, so this is going to be 6.2 ton as well. Remember, if you are setting up a fraction like method number three, anytime you do have numbers in your denominator, then remember, yes, you will need to divide. If both of my numbers are on top in my numerator, then that means I just have to multiply. So for all three methods, 6.2 is your answer here. Let's look at 92 ounces equals how many pounds? And my conversion factor for this example here, this is going to be 1 pound equals 16 ounces. So by looking at this example, I am going from ounces to pounds. So that means I am going from a smaller unit to a larger unit. So that means I need to divide. I am going to divide 92 divided by 16 because 16 ounces is going to give me the 1 pound. So we do 92, divide that by 16. This is going to give us 5.75 as our answer. So my question here, 92 ounces equals 5.75 pounds. Now method number 2, if I set up a proportion, 92 ounces on top, we do not know how many pounds yet. My right side is going to be my conversion factor. So we're going to do 16 ounces on top here. This equals 1 pound. Now I'm going to cross multiply. So my left side here, we have 16, you can say 16x equals 92. I'm going to divide both sides by 16, so x is going to equal 5.75 as well. Method number 3, I'm going to do 1 pound on top, and my denominator here, I'm going to do 16 ounces. Now I'm just going to multiply across. And remember, because I have a number in my denominator here, that means I do need to divide. So my numerator, these are all going to cancel out. My numerator, you're going to get 92. And your denominator, you're going to get 16. So 92 divided by 16 is also going to be 5.75 pounds. So let's look at this example. Let's say we had 5 weeks equals how many days? The conversion factor that we're going to use to help us solve this is going to be 7 days equals 1 week. And by looking at this example here for method number 1, we are converting a larger unit to a smaller unit. So that means I need to multiply. So I am going to multiply 5 times 7 because 7 days is going to give me 1 week. So we're going to do 5 times 7. This is going to be 35. So your answer here for this example is going to be 5 weeks equals 35 days. Now, method number 2, if you set up a proportion, 5 weeks on top, this is going to equal, we do not know how many days. You're going to do 1 week on top here, and then 1 week equals 7 days here. So 7 days in my denominator, and then you're going to cross multiply. So now we're going to do 5 times 7. This is going to equal 35. And then 1 times, you can do x here. This is going to equal x. So x equals 35, which is going to be my missing factor, which is days. So your answer here is 35 days. And for method number 2, you can check your answer as well. So if you do 5 weeks on top and then you do 35 because that was the answer we got. And on the right side, you have 1 over 7. If you cross multiply, you'll notice that you also get the same answer on both sides. So this side is 35, and then 1 times 35 is also 35 as well. Now let's look at method number 3. If we set up a fraction, so 5 weeks, my denominator, we do not know. This is going to be multiplied times my other fraction, 7 days up here. And then down here is going to be 1 week because 7 days equals 1 week. Now I'm just going to multiply across. When all of these units cancel out, I'm going to multiply across and you'll see you have 5 times 7. This is going to be 35. So your answer here as well is going to be 35 days. Let's look at 84 hours equals how many days? My conversion factor to help us answer this is going to be 24 hours equals 1 day. So because I am going from a smaller unit to a larger unit, then I know I need to divide. I'm going to divide 84 divided by 24 because 24 hours is going to give me 1 day. So we're going to do 84 divided by 24, and your answer here is going to be 3.5. So if I go back to my question here, 84 hours equals 3.5 days. Method number 2, if you set up a proportion, 84 hours equals, we do not know the days yet, equals, so we have 24 hours on top here, and then 1 day down here at the bottom, because 1 day equals 24 hours. Now we're going to cross multiply. So on my left side, 24, you can say 24x on my left side, and then 84 times 1, this is going to be 84. Now we're going to divide both sides by 24 to solve for x, and you're going to get x is going to equal 3.5 days as well. Now let's look at method number 3. If we set up a fraction, very similar to method number 2. So 84 hours times, we have 1 day here, and down here we have 24 hours here, and my hours and days, these are going to cancel out. So I'm just going to multiply across. So 84 is in my numerator, and then my denominator is going to be 24. So 84 divided by 24, this is going to be 3.5 days as well. So if you use all 3 methods, your answer is going to be 3.5 days. 4.4 gallons equals how many quarts? Our conversion factor is going to be 1 gallon equals 4 quarts. And because we're going from a larger unit to a smaller unit, then I need to multiply. So we're going to multiply 4.4 times 4, because 4 quarts is going to give me 1 gallon. So 4.4 times 4, this is going to equal 17.6. So 4.4 gallons equals 17.6 quarts. Now let's look at method number 2. We have 4.4 gallon on top here. This is going to equal, we do not know my quarts yet. And on my right side, we're going to do 1 gallon on top here. This is going to equal 4 quarts on the bottom here. Now we're going to cross multiply. So my left side here, you're going to get x. And then my right side, we have 4.4 times 4. This is also going to give you 17.6. Now let's look at method number 3. So we do 4.4 gallon here over, we do not know my quart yet. We're trying to find that. And then my right side, we have 4 quart. And then down here, we have 1 gallon. So I'm going to multiply across. So 4.4 times 4, this is going to be 17.6 as well. So your final answer here is 17.6. So remember, your units here are going to cancel out. So you're just going to multiply across. You're going to do 4.4 times 4. Let's look at this example here. 64 fluid ounces equals how many cups? And our conversion factor for this question here is going to be 1 cup equals 8 fluid ounces. So because we are going from a smaller unit to a larger unit, then that means we need to divide. So I am going to divide 64 and 8, because 8 fluid ounces is going to give me 1 cup. So we're going to do 64, divide that by 8. This is going to be 8 as your answer. So your final answer here is 8. So if we do 64 fluid ounces equals 8 cups. Now let's look at method number 2. We do 64 fluid ounces here. This is going to be over, we do not know the cups yet. This is going to be equal to, my numerator here is going to be 8 fluid ounces. And then my denominator here is going to be 1 cup. Now we're going to cross multiply. So my left side, we're going to get 8x. My right side, you're just going to get 64. And we're going to divide both sides by 8 so that we can solve for x. And when you solve for x, you're going to get 64 divided by 8 is going to be 8. So your final answer here in this example is going to be 8 cups. Now let's look at method number 3. We're going to do 64 fluid ounces again over, we do not know the cup. We're going to multiply. So we have 1 cup here and then 8 fluid ounces here as well. Now I'm just going to multiply across because all of these are going to cancel out. Let's multiply my numerator. You're going to get 64. And then your denominator, you're going to get 8. So 64 divided by 8, this is also going to give you 8 cups as well. So if you follow all three methods for this question here, then your final answer here is going to be 8 cups. All right, so that is all for today, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye, guys.